Hi, everyone. On September 21st, 1780, a person became an adjective instead of achieving any substantial objective. That person was Benedict Arnold. Originally one of the great military leaders of the fledgling Continental Army, whose battle successes included tremendous wins at Fort Ticonderoga and other key land and sea battles, where the small army under his command successfully defeated the larger and better equipped British Army, Arnold's name was associated with victory and loyalty to the revolutionary cause. Bucking the norms of his day, he would often lead his troops into battle, as opposed to other officers who led the troops from a station in the back. He was eyed as a leader by then General George Washington and others. That is, of course, until September 21st, 1780, when Arnold switched sides and joined the British, setting up the plan to attack and cut off the revolutionary armies at West Point. If not for a fluke of history and a late arriving boat, we might all be paying homage and heavy taxes to the British crown still yet today. Why did Arnold change sides? Why did he allow his name and reputation to become sullied? Historians suggest that it was the fact that he was revered among the Continentalists for his military prowess, but Arnold was also ridiculed and rejected by his military peers. They knew that his wife was from a family that was loyalist and suspected his personal motivations. He was passed over for promotion to Major General by the Continental Congress, who promoted 5 junior officers over him as well. His resentment of the Congress and its decisions turned to hate. He wanted to see the Congress, the very Congress that humiliated him, crushed by the king. Hence, Benedict Arnold became a Benedict Arnold because of his rejection-fueled hate. You know, it's interesting to see what power rejection has over a person. You see, we see it has lasting effects on American history, but the rejection power has been fueling and directing world history, and especially Jewish history, since the times of Parshas Vayishlach. Let me explain. At the end of our parsha, we read about all the many different and diverse members of Esav's family. We learn not only about how they populated the world, and especially the area surrounding the Middle East, but also how they're related to many household names of different nations who would interact with the Jewish people in history. The Torah introduces us to one name that would infamously remain a nuisance to our people forevermore. I'm talking about Amalek. It seems that Amalek was the child of Esav's oldest, Eliphaz, and his concubine, Timnah. And what does the Torah bother to tell us about his genealogy in particular? As Esav's grandson, he is the only one whose mother is identified in this section, as opposed to all the other grandchildren. What is it about Amalek that the Torah feels the responsibility to tell us who his mother was? What's so special about Timnah? The Gemara tells us that Timnah was a princess who became enamored with Judaism of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. She tried to join the Jewish family and was rejected by all 3 of them. She reasoned that it would be better to be a concubine to this nation than a princess of any other, and chose to be Eliphaz's concubine. And it was that union that begot Amalek. You might imagine what stories the young Amalek heard when he was young. His mother's whole identity, that of being second fiddle or Pilegesh, born out of a rejection from the Jewish people. In fact, her very name, Timnah, means to timana, to deny or reject, and was a reflection on his own status. It probably didn't help his self-esteem. In fact, Amalek received an additional blow to his esteem through a different rejection, this time not from his mother, but from his father. You see, the Medrash notes that Amalek asked his father Eliphaz's dad, who will inherit this world and the world to come? The children of Israel, Eliphaz told him. Go out and dig wells for them, fix roads for them, and if you do so, your share will be at least with the lowly among them, and you'll go into the world to come. So upon learning of his potential prospect for the future, Amalek became the enemy and pursuer of Bnei Yisrael. Rav Zev Leff adds that Eliphaz's point that Amalek would have to humble himself, exacerbating the feelings of rejection that he already had as a result of Timnah's rejection by the Avos. And the cause of Amalek's deep hatred for the Jewish people, to the point that the Amalekim attacked the Jewish nation in the desert, where a victory would likely not provide any financial superiority, was not based on deep philosophical differences. Rather, its root is the fact that the rejection of Timnah and the advice of Eliphaz created a bitter person who, instead of improving himself, sought to destroy who he perceived to be the cause of his own personal insignificance. So Amalek learned to reject rejection with a seething anger and commitment to destroy from his grandfather Esav. Yes, as we read last week, after walking away from the Bechorah and ridiculing it, Esav seeks Yaakov's demise when he learns what the cost of that ridicule was. Like Eliphaz, Esav couldn't handle the wound of humiliation. That wound of humiliation and rejection, psychologists note, triggers this narcissistic rage. It's as if the rejected has an ego that's too fragile, treating the psychological injury of rejection as a denial of identity, and deciding that the judging authority must be corrupt and destroyed. And this is what happened to Amalek, and likely later, the same psychology to Benedict Arnold. Which begs the question, how then is one supposed to handle rejection? Is the feeling of rejection something one needs to deny? Is that even something that's reasonable to ask? Ironically, the same Avos, Avram Avinu in particular, are clear in their answer. Unequivocally, no. Avraham, who was known as Avram HaIvri because his ideas were primarily rejected by the world around him, was rejected to the point that they tried to throw him into the fiery furnace. He didn't nurse narcissistic injury or rage. He even davened for the Plishtim who had stolen his wife and then chased him away. But he wasn't simply turning a cheek. So how did his rejection motivate him? Rav Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik explained that sometimes the rejection and loneliness can be productive and increase productivity and creativity. As Rav Soloveitchik explained, I despair because I'm lonely, and hence I feel frustrated. On the other hand, I also feel invigorated because this very experience of loneliness presses everything in me into the service of Hashem. This basic awareness expresses itself in a variety of ways, says Rav Soloveitchik, utilizing the whole gamut of one's effective emotional fife, which is extremely responsive to outward challenges and moves along with the tide of cultural historical change. That's right. The whole gamut of human experience, including the rejection, can make one press himself or herself forward into the service of Hashem. It's often told that the invigoration fueled by rejection and loneliness feelings can be more powerful than a Ferrari. It's almost like a Lamborghini. Yeah, it's told that Ferruccio Lamborghini was originally a wealthy tractor manufacturer who owned several Ferraris, and he found the clutches on his Ferraris were constantly breaking. And so he drove to the factory in Maranello to offer technical advice to Enzo Ferrari. But the imperious Ferrari reportedly told him, buddy, you're a tractor driver, you're a farmer. You shouldn't be complaining about driving my cars because my cars are the best in the world. Well, insulted by the rejection of his expertise, Lamborghini vowed to build a car that was superior to Ferrari in every way. He poached former Ferrari engineers and launched Automobili Lamborghini. His creation of the Miura effectively invented the mid-engine supercar class, forcing Ferrari to spend decades playing catch-up to the tractor makers' cars that he had dismissed. Those who don't want to get stymied by rejection make sure to grow from it. In the case of Abraham and Lahavdil Lamborghini, rejection didn't stop him. It improved him. It made him a name that's still associated with success that endures throughout history. Like Benedict Arnold and Timnah and Amalek, we all experience occasions when we feel rejected. But we're better off not wasting our time and energy trying to avenge a name in the eyes of those who rejected us in the first place. Instead, we're better off learning to develop our own feelings of self-worth and finding the avenues where we'll best express them. We're always better off with our self-worth being the center of our good name. So in a nutshell, we can remember, after a rejection, you can get bitter, or you can choose to get better. Wishing you and yours a Shabbat Shalom and a Shabbat Shalom to all.